And good Monday night. Welcome into the Miller's Edge podcast. I'm Corey Miller, the pastor of Maine here in Columbia, South Carolina. Christian Miller down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We got a lot to get into on the night. Big week for the National Football League. It's a week of weeks. Super Bowl 57. We're going to talk about that. Alabama. Nick Saban found his guys. That's right, guys, plural. Coordinator's position has been filled. Alabama's set to go. Let's get some of that. Of course, there's a lot of other stuff in between those two major topics we'll talk about on the Miller's Edge tonight. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. Weather was beautiful here today in Columbia, Christian. We got up around 62 degrees. Finally saw a big red come out. And that was really, really good to see. But anyway, good stuff. I know things are buzzing down in Tuscaloosa, right? Alabama, everybody's been waiting who's going to be the defense coordinator. Of course, the offensive coordinator position got filled last week. Tommy Rees, OC at Notre Dame, was picked by Nick Saban. Now, a lot of folks thought it was going to be the guy from Washington, and he basically stayed at Washington. And then Tommy Rees, a name that nobody probably would have had in their top five, is the new offensive coordinator down at Bama. I know just following social media, a lot of folks, some positive, some negative, somewhere in between. So you're right there, right around the corner from it. What's the buzz in Tuscaloosa about Tommy Rees, the new offensive coordinator for Nick Saban?
Yeah, I think initially, some people weren't blown away just because, they see the name and he's a young guy coming from Notre Dame and might not necessarily been somebody they're hoping for. I think a lot of people are thinking of Levy at Oklahoma or some other guys. But to me, I think that's just people getting caught up with what they see on paper, stuff they don't really know too much about. I think it's a good hire and for a number of reasons. You look at it, I think he's a great fit for Alabama's roster and their personnel. He likes to use tight ends. Alabama, typically, has a number of tight ends on the roster. They like to get those guys involved. And you just look at his play calling and the way he schemes. He uses a lot of shifts and motions, a lot of Y-ins, jet sweeps, fly motions, rocket motions, sending the back out of the backfield, pre-snap, a lot of things, a lot of pre-snap window dressing to kind of confuse defenses. But with all that being said, he really likes to run the football, which is another reason I think he's a great fit for Alabama. A lot of people want to see Alabama run the football, run it downhill, be physical up front. That's the type of offense that he likes to run. And even with that, he also likes to spread the ball out, get into the gun, run different route concepts. So I went back and watched the Notre Dame versus South Carolina bowl game, which I know you had a chance to watch. And I was pretty impressed with his play calling and his offensive scheme. And it was one of those things to me that if he had better talent, they would have performed much better. And statistically, they would have looked much better on paper. A lot of the time the quarterback was making bad throws, the guys were dropping footballs. If he's running that same system at a place like Alabama with the talent they have here, I see it, performing so much better and improving immensely. So I think he's going to do really well with the guys that he's going to have here in Tuscaloosa. I'm looking forward to another young guy. He's going to be innovative. He's going to be creative. He's a former quarterback, just got done playing not too long ago. If I'm not mistaken, I think he played against Alabama in the championship game. I don't think he was in that game. He's a backup, but he was on the roster. So I think it's a lot to be excited for. And, it's one of those things where I think you got to give him a chance, right? Too many people writing people off just by their name or what they read on paper. Oh, they ranked here or here without giving the guy a chance. And I think you're going to have to give him time to really show what he can do. I don't think the spring is enough time because, number one, you're not going to see in the spring game, or they're not going to display even on the practice clips, what they're trying to implement with his new system. So I don't think that's the final say on, how he's going to do. It's not going to show the trajectory that he's going to be on at Alabama. I think you're not going to have a true idea until the season comes around. You really get to see him in action. But I think it's a good hire, and I'm curious what your thoughts on. I don't. I mean, I think I'd imagine you watched that Carolina game, right?
Yeah, I did. Because I watched a lot of Notre Dame, I watched them against Clemson. How when they were rocking and rolling, how they dominated Clemson's defense. They ran the football, physical offensive line, and that's what you got to put these two things together, in my opinion. So I'm not really shocked that Coach Saban, this is the direction he went. I go back to look at the recruits, look at the offensive linemen that he's bringing in, big, massive, physical guys that can move the line of scrimmage, right? That's been a problem. I mean, Alabama's running game the last couple of years. I will go back and say since, Damian left, it hasn't been the same. Brian Robinson was in the backfield with him, spot time, spot duty. But, Brian had a solid year his senior year. I think he might have rushed for 1,000. But it still wasn't the same. It wasn't we're going to get the lead in games. We're going to get into our 4-minute offense, and we're going to run out the clock, right? We got a 10, 14-point lead. Now we're going to make – you said this a lot. I've heard you say this on your radio show. Check out Chris's radio show, by the way, Big News Sports, 12 to 2 Eastern and 11 to 1 their time, or 10 to 12. Was it 10 to 12 Central?
12 to 2 Central, sorry. 1 to 3
yeah.
Eastern. There you go.
Yeah, I get it, right? I get mixed up on the time changes. But they weren't able to do that. They weren't able to finish games. You said make them quit. That was kind of y'all theme, right? You get leads in the fourth quarter. We dominate the fourth quarter, and we do that by running the football. We control the line of scrimmage. Well, if you go back the last couple of years and watch Alabama, I thought they struggled in that area. They've had they've known for wide receiver you all of a sudden. They're known for the quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks in the National Football League, 3 starters. Great. But look at the offensive line. How many offensive line, since the guy went to the Raiders and then the Neil went to the Giants, but it hasn't been like several guys. They haven't dominated the line of scrimmage. So I think Coach Saban's mindset now is he's looked at Georgia and he saw that, hey, this still works. A little bit of that old school football, it still works. Running the football still can win championships. And he's seen it done this past season. He's seen it done 2 years ago when they played Georgia. Georgia ran the football. Yeah, they can spread you out. Yeah, they can throw it downfield as well. But their mantra is running the football. So I think Coach wants to get back to that. He's recruiting just for that, big, more physical linemen versus smaller guy, more athletic guys that can pass protect. He wants some dudes. He wants some big butts that can push the line of scrimmage and get those backs. He's got 2 highly recruited backs coming in this year that can run the football downhill. So that sets up to say this guy, Tommy Rees, that's who he is. Notre Dame, that's what they were. Tight ends and offensive linemen. And they didn't have the skill guys that Alabama has sitting on their roster. So they'll be able to do that when they want to do that. But they want to run the football. Coach Saban wants to be physical at the line of scrimmage. And in my mind, this fits what he wants. So, you give him that with that roster, as you alluded to, man, the sky's the limit. Of course, he's not a guy that's all that he knows is running the football. He's going to spread you out too. They'll still run some RPOs and things like that. They got a running quarterback to add that. That's going to be their next year. Maybe the starter. Who knows who's going to start? Maybe it's Tyson. But they got a quarterback with the running game, with the big, massive offensive line. That's what he wants to do, where they can make people quit in the fourth quarter, be that physical brand again like we've seen with Georgia the last couple of years. So I like it. He's not that name out there that everybody has become accustomed to hearing about, 500-600 yards of offense, throwing the ball all over the yard. Coach Saban, he changed that for a while when they had Locks and they had Kiffin, these coaches Sarkisian to a degree. He wants to get back to what he feels comfortable with. And I think this is the reason. This is the reason he said, okay, this is my guy. He's young. He's old school at heart, but yet can be innovative when needed. They can take and use those guys on the outside to the players that can get loose in space. So to all the Alabama fans out there complaining and, we don't, because they've gotten used to this PlayStation football now. That's what we see, right? You draw them up, and guys trick plays. That's what a lot of fans have become accustomed to. But it's still something to be said about blocking and tackling. Old school football works. Old school football wins, and it wins championships. All you got to do is look down in Athens, Georgia, and that's what Kirby's been doing the last couple of years with great defense. So I think he wants to get back to that because that's what has won him a lot of championships before they got to the tours and, that type of offense and Jalen's, the RPOs. He wanted to get back to that physical brand of football, and I think this guy's going to be really good. They got the tight end that transferred in the portal over from Maryland from Coach Loxley, who's really good, who can catch it, he can block. So they got some guys on the roster that can come in. They can go 12 personnel, one back, two tight ends, even 13 when they need to be in that to really get, short yardage and goal line situations. So I like it. I think that's who Alabama is. I think that's who Nick Saban is. And he wants to get that mindset back that we're going to be physical. We're going to knock guys off the ball. We're going to run it downhill. We got 4 or 5 backs that can play, and we're going to utilize that, and that's going to be the strength of their team. So I like it. I mean, I know a lot of people, because of the name, may not, nobody really wanted this guy, but
Yeah.
sometimes that's the right guy.
No, I agree, and that's kind of what I was thinking. I mean, he honestly checks so many boxes, and we both kind of hit on it. But just to kind of review that, a young guy, he's going to be able to relate with his players. I mean, imagine a young guy like that. Now he's got that script A on his chest. He's going to go out there and be able to recruit immensely. I think he's going to be hot on the recruiting trail. And you just said it. He's an old school kind of guy at heart. He likes that heavier personnel set. He likes going into 12 personnel, those two tight ends on the ball, running the football, playing physical up front, which, pairs perfectly with the heavier guys that Alabama's recruiting now. And even just those pre-snap, motions and movements and orbits and fly motions and all that, you put all that together. And I think it's a great hire. I think he's going to fit in great, help kind of restore that physicality in that run game that we have kind of started to miss seeing from Alabama, and a lot of people were complaining about us not running the football. I think we were 80-something in rushing attempts this past season, which is unheard of around Alabama. So I say all that to say I think people should have a lot to be excited about in Tommy Rees. I think he's going to have a lot to offer. I think he's going to help really restore that physicality up front in the running game and still bring in that ability to stretch the field and air it out, spreading out defense. But you also got to realize too, when Brian Kelly went to LSU, he was really eager in getting Tommy Rees as his offensive coordinator. It didn't end up working out, but and Brian Kelly's a pretty impressive offensive mind. So I think that goes to say, obviously, Tommy Rees has a lot of credibility. If he was highly sought after to join Brian Kelly's staff at LSU, so I'm excited for him and seeing what he can bring to the table with the type of talent that he's going to have at Alabama. So I think the sky's the limit, and the potential is through the roof when you combine Tommy Rees and the talent that Alabama has. The other addition, and I was a defensive coordinator. I'm familiar with him. I'm sure you're pretty familiar with him. He's a South Carolina native out of Dillon, Kevin Steele. What do you know about him, and what would you say about that hire?
Man, Kevin Steele's been around. Good Lord. Which means he's kind of old. He's kind of old,
Yeah.
but when you're talking about a good defensive mind, a guy that's been around all levels of football. He was at Clemson for a while. He just came from Miami. He's at Alabama, a couple of stops there. The dude knows football. I mean, and he knows Nick Saban brand of football. So I think when you look at it, Coach wanted somebody that's going to, again, that the transition would be very easy. I mean, because it's probably going to be Nick's defense anyway. But Kevin still understands. He worked with him. He knows what Nick wants. He knows all the verbiage, all the language, everything. That's going to be so easy. The transition to come right in, to pick up just right where they left off and probably change some things. And I think it's going to be a great ad. I really do. They got some dudes. They got edge rushers. They got linebackers, secondary. Some of the guys are coming back that's got valuable minutes, valuable experience. And again, I think we can kind of echo, what we said about the OC. It's kind of strange that we're sitting there and we're talking about Alabama and physicality, but The two things that I look at when I watch Bama football every week, is they weren't as dominant in the trenches on both sides of the ball. I just talked about how the offensive line, they couldn't run the ball. Even when it was 3rd and 1, they were getting first downs. Well, defensively, I thought the D line, besides Will, was just okay. I mean, they weren't dominant. They weren't them dudes that we've seen in years past. Back when you played, we haven't seen those guys, especially the defensive tackle position. Alabama used to dominate at stopping the run. Teams would come into a game and they would know we can't run the football. They made teams become one-dimensional, right? And so when you know as well as I do, when you get a team and they become one-dimensional and they got to throw the ball, those guys pin their ears back and they go harass the quarterback. Kevin Steele is going to bring that back. He's going to bring back that mentality of toughness, because that's when I looked at the team defensively, I didn't see that aggressive, tough Alabama football. Reuben Foster, some people that come and, knock your head off. I didn't see the leadership. Even Will's going to be a top 2, 3, 4, whatever, top 5, let's just say it that way. But I didn't necessarily see that physicality, that toughness, that, again, make people quit. I saw more defense that you had some great athletes, long, could run, but I didn't see the toughness. And I think, Pete, good dude, but I didn't see the defense that I was accustomed to seeing. I will say this, Christian, that you know this. Players take on the identity of their coach, right? Jeremy Pruitt's of the world, when you had, Lapoy, those guys there, when you had all these coaches on defense. I mean, I've seen it. I've been at practice cussing y'all out there in your grill, there in your face. They demand the physicality. Kirby Smart. I mean, look at Kirby and his defense. Them dudes take on his personality. You heard the locker room talk and how they talk and how they approach games. They didn't have that under Pete Golden. To me, I'm just being honest with you, I saw they were a little soft to me on that side of the ball. They were. They weren't physical. They were just running around and, helping guys. I was like, no, that's not how you play defense. That's not the mentality. That's not the mindset. Kevin Steele, if anything, brings old school back. He brings toughness, discipline, physicality. What do we see from Alabama's defense? Undisciplined. Tennessee game, they lost that game because they were undisciplined. LSU, they were undisciplined. 2 games, but those 2 games kept them out of the college football playoffs. So Kevin Steele has been around the game a long time, very knowledgeable, gets it, seen everything. He understands tempo. He understands all these things the offense is trying to throw at you these days. And he's going to me, the number one thing is he is going to demand toughness. He is going to demand physicality. They're going to address that defensive line, pushing the offensive line back, changing the line of scrimmage is what we call it. I didn't see a lot of that in the past couple of years, but I can assure you this, Kevin Steele will demand that. And I tell you, you're going to see a physical, disciplined Alabama defense again. We know they got athletes. We know they got speed. They got all of that. But to me, they missed the between the ears. They missed that. That was the mindset of being tough. And I think Coach Saban said, you know what? I got to have that again. Kevin Steele, cool, but he ain't going to want to be friends with you. He's like, no, I'm your coach. We ain't going to be boys. I'm not going to be doing the gritty and all that stuff. We're going to go play football. The guys want to dance and they want to put on the belts and, gold teeth and gold chains. No, get your tail out there and hit somebody. And I think that's the attitude that Kevin Steele, that mindset will come back to Tuscaloosa.
I agree. And if I'm being honest, I do feel Jeremy Pruitt probably was Coach Saban's first choice. But just after hearing him speak at the Red Elephant Club signing day party that me and Chris Stewart were doing the signing day show, Coach Saban gave some words, and answer some questions from the people in attendance. And he kind of almost said without saying, he's high on certain candidates as well, but sometimes just there's too many obstacles to make those things happen. So he almost was kind of hinting at the fact that, hey, I'm high on Pruitt just like everybody else, but unfortunately, the timing just isn't right, and we just don't know if we can get it done right now. So I think a guy like Kevin Steele makes perfect sense. He's similar to Pruitt in terms of that old school, hard nosed football coach. A little bit older than Pruitt, so yeah, you're right. He's not necessarily going to be your best friend. I remember when I was with him for 1 year in 2014, he was the inside linebackers coach, so he wasn't coaching me directly, but he's not afraid to jump you, and he's not really, one of those guys who's just going to be your best friend. He's a football coach, and he's all about uh, playing physical, dominating the guy in front of you, and making it simple, just lining up against the guy in front of you and making his ass quit. That's what he preaches. And, he has a long track record of coaching inside linebackers. So Kevin Steele's a guy who's going to emphasize that front seven to be dominant, disruptive, intense, punch you in the mouth, make you quit. That's his style of play. That's how he used to coach the inside linebackers when I was with him, and that's how he's going to coach his defensive play. He was at Auburn, I think, 2016 through 2020. He was there for several years, and you watch those guys. They didn't have as much talent as we had, and most of the time we beat up on those guys. I'm proud to say that. But if you look at it, they had a really good front seven. Those guys played aggressive. They were disruptive. They were physical. It was never just a cakewalk, right? He had those guys ready to play. And that's what he's going to bring back to Tuscaloosa. He's going to bring that old school mentality, that punch you in the mouth, downhill, thump somebody. It's not going to be finesse style. It's going to be, we're going to run and gun. We're going to run and hit somebody in the mouth. And I think that's exactly what we need right now. You kind of alluded to the fact that we didn't always seem as physical as a team as we've seen in years past from a lot of the different defensive units that we've had at Alabama. So I think he's, step in the right direction to get back to that standard of play. You look at things like his SEC experience. He's coached at LSU, Alabama, Auburn. He's recruited the SEC. He's played against the SEC. So a lot of valuable experience coaching the SEC, which will be very helpful for him to join the staff here. And the simple fact that this is his third stint under Coach Saban. He's very familiar with Coach Saban. Coach Saban's very familiar with him. They understand each other. They understand each other's standards. So the fit should just be natural and seamless. He was Coach Saban's first defensive coordinator. So I think it makes a lot of sense, right? It kind of follows that same pattern we've seen from Coach Saban, at least on the defensive side of the ball. He really prefers to bring guys in who have a background with him, that understand him, that understand his system. Because that's vital. Working for Coach Saban is not easy. It sometimes takes the right person that really understands how he operates. It's definitely a tough task, but it's worth it. You have a chance to compete for championships. And usually, if you look at the past, if you coach under Coach Saban, you have a great shot at going on to being a head coach. And I'm sure Kevin Steele wouldn't mind being a head coach someday. He tried to be the head coach at Auburn. Unfortunately, they ended up going with Brian Harsin. We saw how that played out. So this could be a great opportunity for Kevin Steele as well. So I'm excited for it. Again, I think it just makes the most sense. I'm surprised we didn't hear his name earlier. I guess it didn't cross my mind, but it makes a lot of sense grabbing him from Miami. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with these guys. He's going to have a lot of talent on his hands. Just going over the recruiting class with Chris last week, man, there's so many talented guys, especially on the defensive side of the football. He's going to have, an abundance of edge rushers they're bringing in Keon Keeley, Quay Rousseau, some guys on the defensive line, the two guys from Carver as well. So, I mean, he's going to have a lot to work with, not to mention the guys that are already there. And I think he's going to have those guys really playing fast, physical, side on the sideline, just terrorizing people. Because, again, he's going to bring that mentality to these guys. The talent's there. It's all about getting those guys to play that way and play to their potential and play in a dominant physical fashion. And that's what he's going to do. So I'm looking forward to it. Definitely excited to see, during the spring, kind of how he works with these guys, how he gets them moving around. And I think everybody else will be really keeping an eye on that as well. Because I think that was, like you said, that's one of the biggest things. People want to see Alabama's defense get back to those days of watching guys really flying around, hitting people in the mouth and just playing dominant. And he was a part of some of those defenses. And that's his traditional style of play. And so I think that's exactly what we're going to see with his return to Tuscaloosa.
I mean, if you think about it, the difference between Georgia and Alabama the last couple of years has been the defense. I mean, it has. I mean, and the people ready to bury Alabama, and I heard somebody, maybe Barrett Sallee or somebody said something silly about is this the death and I? They keep going to end of the dynasty. I mean, you remind people Alabama just played for the national championship 2 years ago. I mean, you're
Right.
talking about it, the dynasty's over. It ain't winning, but they probably would have won it had they been healthy and had definitely they had James Williamson and Metchie
Metchie.
got to stay healthy. I thought Alabama would have won that game, but it's been the defense, and Kirby has kept the whole Bama factor going in Georgia defensively, and they've won. Again, Stetson Bennett was really good this year, but still the defense wasn't as good as they were 2 years ago when Alabama played them. But they still had dudes. I mean, look at who's getting drafted. When I go look at the similarities, right? When you guys went to 4 straight national championship games, we used to sit there in the meeting room at Alabama, you and I with Jamie, and we just point out all them players on the defense side of the ball at Alabama in the league. Like there's 2 years, I think every daggum one of these players has played in the league. It's like,
Right.
and a
Yeah.
lot of them was up front. A lot of them was the defensive line. We talked about Quinnen to Ashawn to, I mean, all these two boys, Allen and another one at
Payne.
Washington. I mean, they probably 10 fourth guys in the league right now, maybe 14 off of those teams that y'all had defensively. That's how good they were. And then you go look at Georgia the last 2 years. Look at all the guys defensively that they had drafted 2 years ago. Look at the guy that's going to be a top 5 pick, defensive tackle. I mean, the guys in the front. And that's what Alabama got to build their defense again. When you played, you had you guys, and on the outside, Terrell and Anthony, but then you also had them dudes in the middle, and they were no joke. I mean, you weren't running the ball on you. You got to stop the run. That's what, and you took pride in that. I didn't
Right.
see that. I'm just saying defensively, you didn't see that. I mean, they were running the ball up the middle. Go back and watch tape. A lot of those runs came right up the middle. They were soft in the middle, and that has to change. They got to get some dudes in there and that mimic what Georgia has had the last couple of years, because you got all the athletes, you got the length, you got, they was forced to try to put, you talked about this on one of the shows, I know when I was on there with you, they was forced, based on how y'all play defense, right, to put Will Anderson down on the inside. And that told me that they had to do that because they don't have the guys to get it done. And he was totally out of position. This year, I think they hurt him by having to play down. He did a lot against LSU. He did against Tennessee. Out of position. That 245, you can't play down in there. I mean, so they got to get back to that. And I think, again, with Kevin Steele, he understands that. He knows that. And they're going to recruit to that as such. And then just that mindset, when you plug that in with the athletes that can dominate in the trenches, especially in those big tackles and some linebackers that can run and tackle. I mean, I like Tua, but he's a finesse linebacker. He ain't punching nobody in my. They to me, they weren't that great at the inside backer position. I mean, so I think.
Well, let me say one thing though. I will say one thing about Toto because I got to defend him because a lot of people just see what they see on the screen, right? But I will say, I guarantee you, right? No. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I will say though, knowing how that system works, he might not have been perfect, and nobody is, but I will tell you, he was their best option at inside linebacker to play that Mike position, and he was the nucleus of that defense. And I guarantee you, if you would have subbed him with anybody else, they would have been lost on defense because he might not have necessarily had all the physical attributes, and he might have missed some tackles, but he had the brains, right? And that's one of the most critical pieces of defense at Alabama. You got to have a guy that can just kind of be the nucleus and gel everything together, get everybody lined up, get them on the same page. And for that, I respect them because that's no easy task. And it's hard to do your job when you're trying to make sure other guys are doing their job. And I watch other positions be out of position and not doing their job. So I can only imagine, what he was having to go through trying to keep everybody on the same page and draw it. So I just want to defend him because he gets, people ride him a lot. And again, I know he's not perfect by any means, but I think he's a good football player. He's a very
Oh, no doubt.
smart football player, good instinctual football player. Definitely could clean up some things in some areas, but I had to defend him a little bit. And I'm not saying you, but I hear other people, they jump him so hard as if like, oh, he's the worst linebacker we've had here, and that's not true.
No, I think again, to me, he's what I would call what we call him the Giants. Especially when you're doing more of a 3-4, we would call him the wheel backer.
Right.
And so to me, he's not a true Mike. To me, he's a wheel back. He's a weak inside linebacker. I think with his athleticism and his speed and his brains to be able to diagnose plays and run and chase, he's that type of guy. I think he would be great in the NFL to get in a system where he's a run and chase guy. But Mike is not his natural position. I mean, you need a thumper in there to Mike. I mean, Ruben was a great Mike. I mean, he come downhill.
Reggie
Ragland, to me, those bigger, more physical guys. And I know it's hard. See what's happening, though, Christian, you know this too, is that because of the offense in which you play, defenses now say, okay, we can't have a big Mike like that, especially if he can't run, right? So we can get away to a smaller guy, more athletic guy to play Mike because teams are spreading you out so much. So I get that. I mean, so, base offense is not 21 personnel anymore. Back when I played, base was 21. We go regular. Hey, we got 21 personnel or 12 personnel. We can go regular defense. You got to have a thumper in there that can take on blocks and get off blocks, that type of thing. Well, now your base offense most of the time is 11 personnel, one back, one tight end, 3 wide receivers, which puts most people want to play nickel. So now if you run a 3-4, well, that's not really conducive to have like I was who played Sam, strong outside. We call that Sam backer. Now you got to, especially when you're playing cover 2 or cover 4, things like that, you have to, when they go motion to trips, you got to slide out and cover down number 2. Well, number 2 might now be really a slot receiver, right? So, and we had to take him down the seam, run with him and things like that. So you're really not matching up as well, although teams will use 11 personnel and still run the football. That's what they want to do because they want to hit those gaps, right? They want to spread you out, that open up those gaps because now you're out here, and that's what teams are doing offensively to try to take advantage of defenses, and then they can't, they go fast, so you can't get off the field and change personnel. So all that stuff is I get all that. But I'm just saying they still need to be physical on the inside, which means your defensive tackles become vital.
That's the next thing I was going to say was, and you just basically were saying that the level of play on the interior defensive line had not been at that same level. So you also have to consider that because, when Ruben and those guys had Ashawn, Jaron Reed, Dalvin Tomlinson, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, all those guys eating up blocks, getting off of blocks, playing in the backfield, being disruptive, it made the jobs of the inside linebackers that much easier. Those guys are running clean, right? Sideline to sideline, untouched sometimes just because the ability of those elite interior defensive linemen to be so disruptive and keep those middle linebackers clean. So that's another thing to consider too. That again, those are like the variables, right? That people don't always consider when they're jumping on some of these players, but they got to realize there's so many factors that go into football that can make such a big difference in performances and different people's ability to make plays. But I want to shift gears real quick. You got the Super Bowl coming up. Actually, before that, did you watch the Pro Bowl events? Jamie was out there. His brother CJ was named Pro Bowler, so they were out there in Las Vegas celebrating that. He had called me and was telling me about the events they had going on. Said it was I know you're shaking your head. But he said it was a fun event, for the families. A lot of fun stuff to do. A lot of kids are out there, and he said it was overall a really nice thing they put on. But obviously, I think the Pro Bowl looks a lot different now than it did when you were playing. I'm just curious, kind of what your thoughts were after kind of seeing the new setup of it. You think they should get rid of it altogether? You think they're moving in the right direction? What are your thoughts on that?
I think they should squash it. I I mean, it's the super. I mean, excuse me. The Pro Bowl is, and I can see what Jamie is saying. I can see that it's
And that's his
for
that's his perspective, like being with his
right.
family.
No, no, no. I mean,
So
and
yeah, the
especially,
events. Like I mean, they had concerts for the families, they had all type of games and
oh yeah,
top golf type stuff. So that's what he was probably talking
yeah.
about. I
They
think
hit
it
the
is a good
golf ball.
celebration of it.
I saw
Yeah.
CJ out there. He hit a golf ball over 300, which I was shocked. I didn't even know he knew how to play golf. But
Yeah, you feel it.
he crushed it. 309, I believe I saw it. But the
Mm.
over, I mean, they're gonna do all of that. I mean, I had a mentee, Tate Mines here in Lexington, quarterback at Lexington High School. He went out. They had a high school showcase. So during that same week. So great week. You're in Vegas. I mean, Vegas. You're gonna have a good time. But they're gonna take care of the family. But as far as the game and playing flag football, that's terrible. I mean, I didn't even watch it. I mean, it's like I'm not watching that. I don't want. If I want to watch flag football, I'm gonna go back out to Polo Road and when I used to coach out there. I mean, who wants to see a bunch of grown men out here running around playing, taking the flag, off
Yeah.
the hip? I just think it's hard. Like football is such a physical game, and to have you get the NBA All-Star game that happens during the season, mid part of the season, right? You go out there and play basketball, and then they don't even play hard. Maybe in the fourth quarter a little bit, they might try to play a little D. I mean, that's even a joke. The one that matters is the hockey and the baseball. I mean, those are true all-star games. Football, if you're not going to play physical, the only way to play football is to play it the right way. Play a game. I mean, there's risk. Season's over. There's risk. There's it's like the whole thing of college kids not playing in bowl games. College kids, I got to go, get ready for the draft. Same kind of mindset. Like it's the Pro Bowl used to be respected when I played. I mean, I was also in 1993 and went to Hawaii. I mean, that was a beautiful thing. You go to Hawaii, you go, and winning team gets back then it was like 20,000, loser gets 10,000. But it was fun at least. I mean, they didn't play all out, but they still play like the last 3-4 what we've seen as a joke. But I don't know. If it's flag football, just have a fun week. Don't even play a game. If you want to get the families out and do different things, concerts, and do things in the community, raise some money for charities, things like that, do that. Just say we're not going to have a game because concussions, because injuries, because then do that. Do a fun charity golf event with it, or something like that. I mean, but just get rid of it. And now look at nobody. The best players ain't playing in it. We got. I mean, if the Pro Bowl was where it was, the way it is now, I wish it was like back then. It was like it is now. I probably would have made about 7-8 Pro Bowls.
Oh, you mean like all the alternates and stuff?
They down in fourth, fifth.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a dude they played for 2 games. He's in the Pro Bowl.
How'd that work though? But how did he get the nod over?
Wow. I mean, because I
Was
guess
it like Trevor Lawrence? No, Trevor Lawrence I think was there too.
Trevor Lawrence is like a third or fourth alternate, but he's in the Pro Bowl. Mac Jones got in last year because he was probably third or fourth alternate. Derek Carr got cut. Right? Then Derek Carr get cut or benched.
Yeah.
He still got in the Pro Bowl. He didn't get cut, he got benched. Excuse me, misspoke there. But I don't know.
They are. I think they are releasing them, aren't they?
Man, I saw dudes out there I ain't never heard of. I mean, I'm like, who is this? I mean, when these guys, your big players are not going to play. I mean, for a flag football game, man, come on. I mean, especially your veteran guys, they're not going to play in that stupid flag football game.
It looks like the guys have fun doing it, though. They're having some fun.
But it's probably more the younger guys. I mean,
well, I feel like a lot of guys actually were younger. Probably like you just were mentioning, there's a lot of alternates, a lot of the older guys, vets. They probably were. Yeah, but I mean, look, I saw
you still get your money because you gotta instead of you make the Pro Bowl when the voter, guess what? You get your money. Right?
Yeah.
Because, I used to have like $100,000 incentive for Pro Bowl or 150, whatever it was. You get, once they announce it, you get your money. So why would I go in the game? Go over here and hit golf balls and play in a flag football game. Why would I do that? Give me my
Yeah.
cheese in Cancun. Go
Yeah.
go to Cabo. Go hang out with your family over there. Doesn't be out there with that foolish. So Jamie, if you listen and watching, I know this. I mean, that's great, but I'm just saying, based on, and things change. I mean, it's been 20 something years since I was on the field, but I get that, but it's like, if this what you're going, if we're to this, just don't have a game. Period.
Yeah. I was just curious because I know you probably would have some thoughts on that with
But I probably,
it
for
being
my
so
younger
different.
years, though, I probably would have been right up in there, though. I ain't gonna lie to you.
That's what I was about to say. I mean, it didn't look too bad. I mean, I know Josh Jacobs said it was stupid, but it
I've
looked
been
like the
out
other.
there.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like they had a little fun doing it. Now we can go to the Super Bowl real quick. Got the Eagles taking on the Chiefs. Uh, I think it's going to be a really good matchup. I thought Mahomes was going to be a lot more hindered with his mobility with that high ankle sprain in that last game against Cincinnati, but clearly that medical staff, that athletic training staff, did a hell of a job to get him prepared to play. So tip my hat to them and him as well for having that toughness and grit to just go out there and make it look effortlessly dealing with a high ankle sprain. After I've dealt with one myself, and there's no way I would have been playing a week later. I mean, I don't even think I could walk normal within a week. But with that being said,
Playing linebacker a little different than playing quarterback. You can get away with it.
I mean, fair enough. But fair enough. But that last scramble. Speaking of
That's
that, Lars is still in denial. Lars from it's Lars Anderson from the show, do Big News Sports, still in denial, saying that shouldn't have been a flag. And I'm like, clearly, you just are in denial because
he's
I don't
he's
think
a Bengals fan. Lars is a Bengals fan. I mean, he's still
right.
crying.
Yeah, no, I know he was talking about that today. But how do you feel about that game? Who are you leaning towards? I'm kind of torn because honestly, I feel like these are the two best teams in the league right now, right? Both teams have like 6 All-Pro players respectively. Both quarterbacks, the first and second team All-Pro quarterbacks. The Eagles with that offensive line, man, best in the league. Jalen's been playing phenomenal. I mean, so much to look at. The defense of Philadelphia, the way they came out and completely just terrorized the 49ers, led by Hassan Reddick, just wreaking havoc off the edge. I don't know which way I'm leaning. It's kind of, I don't want to bet against Mahomes because, again, I don't even think I'm really going to factor in the ankle at this point. He played on it a week after suffering that high ankle. So I think him having another 2 weeks now, I think he should be a lot better than he was this past game against Cincinnati. So I'm not going to include that, but man, I want Jalen and the Eagles to win. My former players and teammates. Landon Dickerson, Josh Jobe, Smitty, Jalen. I really want those guys to be able to get this win, but I just have a hard time betting against Mahomes, man. Like I just have a hard time
Uh,
doing it because he's just a generational talent. You just watch him play; he's just remarkable, man. Like the things that he does, he creates plays. I mean, he just operates that offense effortlessly, and the connection with him and Travis Kelce is unlike any other. Travis Kelce, arguably the best tight end in the National Football League. So, man,
I'll
I
say he
think if
is.
yeah, no, he is, and it's hard to really look at this matchup. I don't really know which way it's going to go. I really think it's going to be one of the best Super Bowls we've seen in a long time. I truly do believe that. I think it's going to be back and forth, and I don't know if I'm ready to give a prediction yet, but I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on that because I know you're a big fan of Mahomes, boy. So
Yes, I am. I mean, because the dude is special. You know, I look at this game and I go, wow, it's you can go different sides, and I can make an argument. I can make an argument for either team.
right,
If I'm an Eagles fan, which I'm not, being that they're in the
clearly,
NFC, my Giants. Well, I mean, we don't like the Eagles. It's just, it's the Eagles. I mean, they really just became relevant a few years back as far as winning Super Bowls. But let's start with Kansas City. My homeboy, Patrick Mahomes. Is you got? If I say who's got the better quarterback, much as I love Jalen, everyone, obviously I got Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback. Jalen is really thriving and amazing what he has done in his third year.
His progression, just so to
Yeah,
speak.
I
I mean,
mean,
just seeing him improve year after year, and to get to this point, going from someone that basically was benched at Alabama because
mm,
they didn't feel he could throw the ball effectively to now being one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, maybe an MVP favorite, or runner up at least. Uh, yeah, his progression and improvement, that alone has just been remarkable. But go ahead.
well, here's my point. If I'm going looking at Kansas City, I go Patrick Mahomes, what he did last week at Arrowhead Stadium against Cincinnati. I mean, on a bum ankle, high ankle sprain. We know how difficult, you just alluded to that, to play with that, move around, and he made that big time first down. Was amazing. He willed that Kansas City Chiefs team to a victory. Um,
Right.
the dude is special. He is we were using the term now magician. That's what he is. He makes every throw, off schedule throws, but he showed something last week that I thought is really crucial. Because of his lack of mobility, he was forced to stay in the pocket and go through progressions. He was forced to stay in the pocket and make reads. And we, I knew he could do that, but a lot of people question that. Oh, he's just quarterback. He just runs around and he's a magician and incredible at doing that. But can he stand in the pocket and can he go through his read progression and deliver strike? Well, he proved that last week that he can be that type of quarterback if need be. Give him 2 weeks on that ankle, the way he played, he's going to be probably 80, 90%. He's going to be close to healthy as he's probably been all season long. And I'm not worried about him. I'm worried about the receivers, by the way, who went down. I mean, he was playing with dudes that just came up out the practice squad and rookies. And he even made them guys look great. They got the best pass protection win rate in the National Football League per Pro Football Focus. Excuse me. So they protect Patrick Mahomes, although I don't think they're great at the offensive line because they can't run the ball. They didn't run the ball well against Cincinnati. And that concerns me because they're going up against one of the better defenses in the National Football League against the Eagles' front seven. Going to be hard to run the football. The Eagles got Slay, and they got Bradbury on the outside. They got safeties that come downhill and will hit you. They got linebackers that can cover, that can run and hit. And we know what the defensive line is all about. You mentioned Reddick and others. So that concerns me because I think in a game like the Super Bowl, the biggest game on the planet, you have to be able to run the football. I don't know if they can. So if they're going to win, Patrick Mahomes is going to have to make off-schedule plays. He's going to get pressure. He's going to have to use his legs. He's going to have to move around. And the thing that if you watch Patrick Mahomes, he made so many plays this past season with his legs, third and longs, and the pocket opens up, or he gets pressure on the outside, he's forced to step up, he finds a crease, and he scoots and gets first down. Those things were big in games. I think he's going to be able to do that. I think, Travis Kelce is going to be a problem for those safeties because safeties are going to have to cover him. And I think Patrick Mahomes is going to expose those safeties of the Saints. When I look at on the offensive side for the Chiefs, that's what I see. Defensively for the Chiefs, can they get to Jalen? Can they stop the run? Those RPOs, I mean, it's a hard offense. You got to play this. It's almost like you're defending the option, right? It's like, and I hated defending the option because it makes you think so much, and therefore it takes away your aggression. It takes away your ability to play fast. And so, can the Chiefs stop the running game? And you got to account for Jalen in the running game. He ain't crazy fast. He ain't beat you and juke you out your shoes in the open field. He's just a smart runner, and he's a strong runner. That, to me, is going to be a problem. I don't think Jalen can beat the Chiefs by throwing for 350 yards. If Jalen has to throw that much, the Eagles lose. The Eagles win this game if they're able to run the football. And you know what I'm going to say next. That means Patrick Mahomes will be on the sidelines watching. So if I'm coaching the Eagles team, we got to run the football. They got the best offensive line in the National Football League. Not just so much that they dominate knocking people off the ball, but Kelce, the brother, Kelce, the center, He pulls from a center position. They get the angles. They put you in dire situations, right? Do I take the dive? Do I take Jalen? Is he going to pull it and throw it? I mean, so many things is happening that it's going to make the Chiefs play a little bit softer. So this game is going to be crazy. You just said it's going to be a crazy game. So I think it's going to be a chess match between coordinators. And I know defense is going to be hard on the Chiefs, but they got to be good on first down. They got to get Philly in obvious passing situations, make Jalen Hurts beat you passing. We know he's upgraded his passing tremendously. He can throw it. Devontae Smith and those slants out the RPO, the jump ball with Devontae, he can contort his body. You saw the crazy one-handed catch, but really it wasn't a catch, but they called it a catch, so therefore it is a catch. They brought in A.J. Brown through free agency from the Titans, big body guy that can catch the ball over the middle, who you throw those 50-50 balls or 80-20 balls, maybe in his case. That's a problem because you're going to go put people in the box and go one-on-one outside. Jalen's great at throwing the deep balls. So this game is going to be crazy, but it's going to come down to this. One, we always say turnover is going to be a big – who protects the football the best? Probably going to win this football game. That's easy to say, but, man, for me, Chiefs win if they're able to stop the run. If they can stop the run, if the Kansas City Chiefs are able to stop the run, they will win this game. If Jalen Hurts and this offense is able to run the ball like they did against the Giants and like they did last week, Jalen's not putting up beautiful numbers throwing the football. He threw for under 200 yards, right? But it's the running game. But when he throws it, he's efficient. So you got to be good on first down if you Kansas City, put them in second and longs, third and longs, then I think the Chiefs win. But if Jalen Hurts is able to run the football and he takes care of the football, which he's done for the most part all season long, then I think the Eagles win. But I just think this is huge for Patrick Mahomes. He's 1-1 in Super Bowls, right? He wants to be in the upper edge conversation of the new GOAT. Tom Brady just stepped down this week. Now Patrick Mahomes is the new GOAT of the National Football League, and he needs to win in order to stay in that conversation, if you ask me, because people's ready to push Joe Burrow ahead of him, which I think is ludicrous. But to stay in that conversation of the GOAT, this is huge for Patrick Mahomes, and I think just Andy Reid, calling plays. Who knows? They come up with trick plays, man. I want Jalen to win. I do. I want Ariane and his family to feel that what it feels like, which a lot of people don't get that opportunity like myself. No matter how long you play in this league, it's hard to win a Super Bowl. And if you can win it in your third year, that's amazing. Landon, to Joe, as you mentioned, to Devontae, your boys you play with, because obviously I pull for them. I can't pull for the Eagles, but if successful means they win, great. But I ain't pulling for them. That being said, you know where I'm going. I think Patrick Mahomes will will his team to victory. Andy Reid, the stash. Man, there's no better play caller than Andy Reid. And they're gonna draw some plays, and they're gonna catch that Eagles defense sleeping, and they're gonna give up some big plays. And I think Patrick Mahomes will win his second Super Bowl MVP, along with the MVP of this league, and he stays atop in that conversation of the new GOAT in the National Football League.
I think
that was good. And you cut that and send it back to my. I want to buy that tape, that breakdown, and send it to the national people, because that was real good.
That was good. I'll definitely make a nice little snippet for you. No, but I think you were spot on. Oh, no, really, you were spot on with so much. I mean, really, at the end of the day, I think both teams are pretty evenly matched. Solid offensive lines. Both have good defensive fronts. You got Frank Clark and Chris Jones, who both had big games last time they played against the Bengals. Then obviously Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat and Fletcher Cox and those guys for the Eagles. But man, I think you're spot on in terms of if Philly can run the football effectively and use that to their advantage to control the clock, control the tempo of the game, keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands, I think that's going to be huge. And not only that, but they're going to have to protect the football, which you also alluded to. Got to prevent turnovers. And on the defensive side of the football, you got to try to force turnovers. So win that turnover battle. And ultimately, I think it's going to come down since they're so evenly matched, and I think they're going to go back and forth, I think it's going to be which quarterback can step up in those pivotal moments and make something happen when it most matters. When it matters the most, who's going to step up and make a play? And you got to think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, they've been in this situation. They've been in the big game several times. That's going to be riding in their favor. They've been in these big moments. So that's something to think about. Just going to be Jalen's first
So
time
you
playing in the
leaning, so
Super
you
Bowl.
leaning, I know you don't want to say it, but sound like to me you thinking Kansas City's going to win the game. I know you don't want to go against your boys, but
I hate to go. I said this today on the show. It's one of those things. I don't know which way I'm really leaning. Again, I'm kind of like, well, I can't say like you because you really don't want the Eagles to win, but I'm the type of guy. Yeah, I want Jalen to win. I want to go for my former teammates. But I also think it's cool, like a lot of those young guys, like this will be their first Super Bowl. Like Mahomes and them guys, they've been in the Super Bowl. They've won some Super Bowls. So I wouldn't be mad if the Eagles won, get their first one under the belt. I'm sure Pat Mahomes is going to go back to plenty of Super Bowls during his career. I just, man, for some reason, even though I feel strongly that, Jalen is going to be prepared to play, knowing, the dedication that he, brings into his preparation and getting his guys that leadership ability, getting his guys ready to play through his vocal leadership, leading by example, just bringing everybody together. We see it week in and week out after, games in the locker room. He's a phenomenal leader. He's always leading his teammates. And I expect to see that from him. I just don't know if I can go against Patrick Mahomes with that magician ability, the experience he has, just overall ability to make plays when it matters and make remarkable throws, create something out of nothing. So I am kind of leaning towards the Chiefs. I think it's going to be a nail biter, but I feel like the Chiefs might pull it out and take home the Super Bowl at the last second, which I hate to say that. I hate to go against my guys, but
you ain't
that's
going
just
against them. I mean, we just spitting facts. I mean, the facts is, you talk about experience. It means a lot. I mean, it's calm, cool, and collected as Jalen Hurts is. He never seemed like he feels pressure. I wonder, what's going through his mind. The fact that, the guy, if he's to have not played in the Super Bowl, I would say he as prepared as anybody. Been in Alabama, playing in big games where he had some misfortune being benched or replaced, I should say, the Tua Tagovailoa. Then he happened to come in and resurrect the Alabama football game of SEC championship game. I remember that coming in, saving that. I mean, I've never seen him flinch. I've never seen things bother him. And knowing his daddy, Avion, is a high school football coach in Houston and Texas, and I know his mentality. I know what he has really instilled, I should say, not installed, but instilled into Jalen. That toughness, that competitive nature, that spirit of I'm gonna win this thing. I'm not gonna flinch. I'm not gonna back down. As you just look, that's there. We know that's there from Jalen. So I think without ever playing in a Super Bowl, the fact that he's played at Alabama, he's been in big time games. Listen, I mean, national championship games, SEC championship games is huge. 70,000, 80,000 folks. I mean, so he's been, that is not going to bother him. It's just the fact that it is a Super Bowl. I can tell you without ever playing it, but covering it for years, for different numerous outlets, the whole week, it's about how do you handle the week. I mean, you got all the media, all the press, Radio Row, every television station, not just in America, but in other countries. I mean, your family, everybody wants tickets. Everybody wants to be there. How do you deal with that? Shutting your phone down and, people want to come and do things. And so all of this stuff matters. So I think the experience factor for the Chiefs, they know they're not shocked by the atmosphere, right? They get in there, it's business for them. It's going to be a business trip. But for guys that never played, it's going to be how you handle all the theatrics, all these things that are happening around you. And really, it's going to be your family. How do you monitor that? Because everybody, I'm telling you, this. I mean, tickets, and man, can you hook your boy up? Can you get this for me? Can you sign this? Or so and so wants a jersey to blah blah blah. All of this stuff. So you got to be able to separate that or have a time frame and say, you know what? After this day, I'm shutting it down. I'm shutting my phone down. I'm focusing on the game. I'm not going to let the outside noise influence me. I can't be listening to everybody and everything. So who handles that the best? And right now, you got to say Kansas City, they're veterans at this thing. So the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, first time for Jalen, not the Eagles, but this staff is the first time, right? So all that stuff is important, Christian. And I think if anybody can handle that noise is Jalen Hurts. And I think it'll be cool. First time with this history in the Super Bowl. First time ever two black quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks, going against each other in the Super Bowl. We've had two black coaches, Tony Dungy and God, the coach got fired from Houston. I'm drawing a blank here. When they played back in the day,
Lovie Smith.
yeah. And so we've had that, but now we've seen two black quarterbacks playing against each other in the Super Bowl. That's a first. So that's really awesome to see. So it's going to be a fun game. Super Bowl 57 out in Arizona, place that you played in a couple of times. That stadium is a great place to be. Weather's going to be perfect, and so it should be a fun game. But if I was a bet man, if you say, hey, you got to choose a team to win this thing, I can't bet against Patrick Mahomes. There's no way I can do it. I love Jalen and his family. If you put a gun to my head and said you got to choose, I'm going Patrick Mahomes all day and every day. He's done it longer. He's proven he's already done it. He's got a ring. So obviously you lean that way a little bit, but I will be extremely, extremely proud and extremely happy for Jalen and the Philadelphia Eagles if they can get it done. One quick note just came across my phone talking about Alabama. Chris, I don't know if you even know this guy, but Alabama's losing another analyst. Alabama football analyst Dave Huxtable is headed to join the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know. I've never met him. Don't know who he is. But sources are saying that he's leaving the staff of Nick Saban and he's headed to the Falcons as a defensive assistant coach on Arthur Smith's staff. And that's coming from Football Scoop's John Bryce.
Yeah, he wasn't there when I was there, but I see him around the building. He's kind of hard to miss. He's got the white hair and the white beard, kind of looks like Santa Claus.
But he's
kind of
been
looks like Santa Claus.
It says here, just folks wondering who in the heck that is. He's a veteran coach in college football. Of course, been on the defensive side of the ball his entire career. He had linebackers coach. He was a defensive coordinator. His most notable tenures were with Georgia Tech in the early 90s through 97, North Carolina 2001 03, Central Florida 7 to 10. He's been at Pittsburgh and at NC State 2013 through 19, and then joined Alabama in 2021. So, which Coach Saban, Alabama has a lot of analysts. So I don't know if that's a big loss or just another guy moving on. So I didn't know who he was. I would say
he was one of those, like you just kind of mentioned, one of those experienced analysts, right? It's not like he was a young guy kind of working his way up, a guy who's been a defensive coordinator for a very long time, came to Alabama, served as an analyst. So he was probably one of those behind the scenes guys, kind of offering a lot of insight. Just another thinking head in the meeting room that can offer different ways to approach some things. He probably was assigned, some type of run game responsibility or passing game responsibility that he emphasized and focused on. So definitely probably a loss, but obviously probably not the most critical loss there is.
Defensive analysts that just lost Todd Grantham, who named popular there maybe to become the DC. He's gone now to New Orleans as well. So that's two analysts that on the defense side of the ball that's leaving, and Will Loing. He's with Bill O'Brien. They're both headed to the New England Patriots. So, but that's nothing. That's par for the course for Alabama. Nick Saban loses analysts, loses coaches, loses coordinators. It seems like every year. So there's a lot of turnover within that coach staff. Well, here's my before we get out of here, Christian. My Miller's Edge. I won't say rant, but people have been asking me about it, and I got to talk about the Gamecocks on our show. But this is the Gamecock basketball team. A lot of people have been asking me about Lamont Paris, who's the new head coach at South Carolina. The Gamecocks struggling right now, but a lot of people on the world of social media are already talking about wrong hire. He should be fired. He should not be a part of this, that, and the third. But let me just say this. Listen, guys, the man's in his first year. When Frank Martin left the program, Frank Martin pretty much left the cupboards empty. A lot of players left. About 80 to 85% of the offensive production gone. Now, I know they got a five-star in G.G. Jackson, a local kid from Columbia Ridgeview High School, a guy that was going to North Carolina, reclassified, and became a Gamecock. And the kid is going to be an NBA player, no doubt, probably after the season. But listen, to say that Lamont Paris needs to be fired is absolutely ludicrous. I understand you want to win games. That's your goal. They've been in games. They fought just a valiant effort against Arkansas. They had a lead, lost it against Georgia in overtime. But this team has beaten Kentucky. This team has beaten Clemson. Clemson is maybe a surprise team in all of college basketball, leading in the ACC. They do have two really good wins and have been in the games. Anytime you lose that much production, it's going to be hard. In this world of NIL and transfer portal, it's going to be tough. I spent about an hour talking to the captain, Kerry Rich, who's the assistant to the coach, and just talking about this program. Those kids play hard. Those kids fight hard. But let's be honest, I'm saying this. They don't have a lot of great talent on this football team. They don't, because most of it left. When a coach leaves, now especially, a lot of players leave. And that's the problem. So you got a coach that's coming in here and trying to put together a team and get whoever you can out the portal and go out there and play. But what I've seen is that the guy can coach. The guy has this team that's not really talented in games. As I just mentioned, he beat Clemson, in-state rival. He beat Kentucky at Kentucky with these guys. So you got to give a guy a chance. You can't say this team is just horrible. He don't know what he's doing. And I will add this. In a world of NIL, you got to have some money. You got to be able to, because kids going to want money. And basketball may be worse than football. So if you don't have the money right now or NIL opportunities, it's going to be tough. So I will cry out to Garnet Trust. I will cry out to Carolina Rise and say to the fans, give money. Give money to both of those. They both about Gamecocks. It's about Gamecocks, about all the athletic platforms so that they can offer NIL opportunities for these players. Because if you want to win, you got to have Jimmys and Joes. I believe Lamont Paris have X and O's, but he needs some Jimmys and Joes. And we as fans have to help that. My final point, a lot of people ask me, what do you think about G.G. Jackson, his comments after losing that game against Arkansas? Going on Instagram Live and offering up his frustration. Never should have done that. A rookie, freshman, immature mistake. I understand that he's frustrated, and he showed that in the wrong way. But he came back and he offered an apology to coaches, to teammates, and to the University of South Carolina. Right thing to do. Don't crush the kid. He made a mistake. He's frustrated. But give the man grace. Give him an opportunity to bounce back. And so for all you internet cowboys out there, relax. Give the man a chance. And if you're a Gamecock fan, donate. Donate to Carolina Rise. Donate to the Garnet Trust, because NIL is here and it's real. And you got to be able to compete there to get some of the best players in this country. So I'm with and support Lamont Paris and the Gamecock men's basketball team. But if you want to see things change, think about giving and help support Lamont Paris so this basketball team can turn this thing around.
Isn't that crazy? Like, y'all over here having to petition to raise money just to get kids to play. I mean, I know I'm old school anyway, but man, if it's me,
it is what it is.
It is, but I'm saying though, if I got a teammate that's asking for a set amount to come play here, I'll just tell his ass, don't come. And that's pretty much Coach Saban's philosophy. I mean, these guys that are asking these set prices, he's pretty much saying, sayonara, see you later. Go play somewhere else. Because, you can probably make more money playing somewhere else in Alabama, but there's only so much they're willing to do. And I respect that because, man, shoot, I think I was making just from, what was it, like, cost of attendance, and then they pay you to live off campus. I mean, we made a couple of $1,000s a month to be able to cover our bills and whatnot, and I was able to save up money, and, I remember at one point I saved up probably over $20,000 just because I was, um, anything extra I wasn't spending, I was budgeting myself, and, I was smart about, what I spent on my rent and my car and all that, but I just don't understand it, man. I get the opportunities are there. I understand, being able to make money off your name, image, and likeness. I was all for that when I did that, report during my master's program. But I just don't understand. At some point, like I mean, even Alabama's doing it. They just unveiled a new program called the Yay Alabama program, basically asking for fans and anybody who wants to contribute towards the student athletes, whatever they call it, the trust, not the trust or whatever it is, but basically you sign up and it's almost like a subscription. And I'm like, it's crazy to think about because I'm like, a lot of these fans hardly can even afford to attend a football game nowadays. With the way ticket prices have gone up, things like inflation and whatnot. The cost to build things have gone up, so that's driving the prices of tickets up. And now they're asking for fans to contribute to pay the student athletes and these collectives. That's what I was looking for in these collectives and trust. So man, it's just I don't know. Again,
But
I'm
that,
all for it, guy. I like being in the program and to say, hey, Foot Locker reaches out to him. They want him to do a promotion with them. And he can make that money like that. That's what I'm thinking. But the whole like, oh, the school is raising money to pay these guys. I mean, Alabama, I think they already get a set. I think Coach Saban said this. Every single guy earns at least $25,000, and then after the cost of attendance and stuff, ends up being around 35,000 or so, way more than what I had, and I made mine work. So I'm like, it's just the fact that I think I just have a problem when I feel like everything is just dwelling on money, and I don't like it. I feel like it takes some of the authenticity out of things, especially guys at a young age. And again, I'm not against them getting paid. I'm all for them getting paid. It's just when it's becoming a thing, like, hey, like we need to earn more, raise more and more to pay more and more people. It's just like I've just never been a huge. Always been a big saver. I'm a big financial guy. I'm all about making money and flipping things and whatnot. But when it becomes like money is the root of everything, yeah, I don't like it. Does that make sense? Like I'm just not a big
no,
fan of
I mean,
money
I get,
controlling everything. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it's one thing if you're trying to make money and provide for your family and be smart with it and create opportunities with it. But when it's turning into how can we make more money to pay these guys? We got to do more. We got to do more. And it's just like at some point, I'm like, the fans aren't going to be able to afford anything. Like now they're basically paying subscriptions to pay the athletes. I'm like, don't these schools get like money from all these TV deals, all these deals that they do already? Like that's crazy to think that they're
but
asking
the
the
problem is
fans to
the
pay these
schools,
players.
the schools can't be a part of it, and and that's why it has to come through other means because the NIL, name, image, and likeness, was meant for. You have to set this thing up almost like it's a pro football organization now, right?
Right,
Because who we're paying, who we're going to give deals to, who can get what. So it's kind of like this is how I think about it. You got to have a structure set up to like, okay, I know my freshmen, my incoming freshmen, though I ain't giving them money beforehand, but you know, hopefully when they get on campus, I got some NIL deals for them. And certain guys going to demand more than others. Let's just be honest, right? And then
right,
what about you guys that are already there, that's been there, that's been committed, that has done great things, and they have really have a name and they have an image and they have a likeness. People want to buy their jerseys or their T-shirts or Ford wants to give them, or Chevrolet wants to give them a car, or whoever, people want to go to come sign autographs. At least that's what you make your money in doing. But you have to get on campus. You have to, almost say, I'm driven to be successful because that's going to open the door of opportunity. I'm going to create value for myself based on how I play. If I play great and people are talking about me, I'm on the highlight package, I'm on the news, blah, 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 I'm good at what I do, it's going to give me opportunity for name, image, and likeness. That's what it was
right,
designed to do. Not so much for recruiting, but it was designed for, hey, we got a great plan in place. Once you get on campus, that, hey, if you do what you're supposed to do, you'll have opportunities to make money. You, as Coach Saban said all the time, you will be able to create value. And we're going to
Right.
give you everything at school. We got the nutrition, we got the off-season program, we got the weight room, we got the academic, we got all of this stuff in place for you to excel and to succeed so that you can go create value for yourself, right? But it's cool though to have fans be a part of that too. I think it's like, hey, you know what? If $10 a month, $18 a month, whatever, you know, because you understand you may not like it. A lot of coaches don't like it, but it's where it is. And when things are the way they are, you have to be able to adjust. That's why Alabama, Nick Saban was echoing the same thing that I'm saying, right? When you get on campus, you work your tail off, you create value, make 100 million if you can, right? Who cares? That's what you're supposed to do. But I don't like it when a kid like Nick Saban comes in his office and say, well, can you send my girlfriend, she went to law school and I need $500,000. And, you know, nah, I don't like it that way. I like it the way it was set up to be. I like it to say, as I just said, come and create value for yourself. And through the collectives, we raise money. We have that there so that we can take care of our players when they're here. That we can when they get that create that value for themselves. We got some things that we can do: sign autographs, do tweets, come and do a radio show, we'll go show up at a golf event, whatever it is. So
Right.
I like that part of it. But to come and demand of my law school, I need a house. Now that to me gets like the kid at Florida, they $13 million. They show, I don't know if you saw that. They they
Yeah.
they they got a hold of that and showed the breakdown. It was absolutely ludicrous. I mean, it's ludicrous. But you have to also establish your way that you know that it's here. You know that it's a part of college football or college athletics, I should say, right? So kids are going to want money, and if you want a player, you know, and you know, you got to have things in place, collectors and groups that can help that said player create value and make money. It's a part of it. So my whole point is here. Who knows how long it's going to be here, but it is here. That's why Alabama got that A initiative. I just saw that a few days ago because it's here. I mean, like, okay, if we're going to compete, if we're going to win games, and the way it's set up and structured, fans going to have to be a part of that. So if you're complaining, I say to the fans, give. I mean, because you got to have Jimmys and Joes. X's and O's,
Yeah.
yes.
Well,
But if you don't have
wow.
those dudes that can run 4.5s and 4.4s and 4.3s and 6.6 and 3.25s and this and the third, you can coach your tail all you want to. But guess what? If that guy is cornerback 4.6 and that receiver is 4.3, he gonna win that battle on the deep ball. Ain't nothing you can do about it. So
Yeah.
it's just the way it is. I mean,
True.
you know, but fans complaining, you know, like I was talking about with Lamont Paris, it's like you got to give a guy a chance. And I mean, listen, you got to have, you know, businesses and boosters and fan bases, things set up to where these guys create this value that they can take advantage of. And that's how it's just a part of the game of college football and other sports in college. It's just what it is right now, period.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I kind of
I
I'm
mean,
with
I agree
Coach
with you.
Saban. I'm with, allowing guys to maximize their potential on and off the field, capitalize off their name, image, and likeness. That is perfectly fine with me. It should have been like that when I played, when you played. It should have already been like that. It's just again now that it's turned into a recruiting aspect, and that's where I'm kind of I'm not okay with it, right? Where you're creating these funds as a recruiting tool and having the fans donate to it as a recruiting tool, right? Like that's where I don't like it because again, now you're getting a bunch of kids that are just pursuing money. That's what Coach Saban was saying. Like I'd rather turn down a guy who's asking for 500, 600, $800,000 because that tells me he's not pursuing the opportunity, he's pursuing the money. And if he's quick to take that money initially come out of high school, what's stopping him from being upset about his
Leave it.
playing time his freshman year and having an agent say, hey, if you get in the portal, I can get you $750,000. So then he just hits you for $500,000
Well,
Then a year
that's
later, he's about to get hit for another. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what we're
that's what we're
encouraging.
dealing with.
Yeah, that's what we're dealing with. But that's what we're encouraging when you're allowing that. And that's what I think they need to stop. Again, I'm all about you creating an opportunity by the play that you put out on the football field, by the relationships that you form, the communities, just by you creating that value, by everything you do, the person you are, the player that you are. I just don't like how it is right now in terms of, hey, we need everybody to donate as much as we can so we can keep raising the bar, because all it's doing is teaching these kids to just chase that money, right? And I get it. Like, that's at the end of the day, a lot of kids are playing football for that reason. They're using their talent to chase the money. That way they can take care of their families. But again, if you go out there and you do your job on the field and you create those opportunities, you will have an opportunity at the next level where you'll get paid those millions of dollars, and you'll establish those relationships, and you'll still be able to come back to the school you went to and hopefully get taken care of, by the fans and the boosters and whatnot, because of the way you went about it with your character. So I'm just a kind of old fashioned type of person. I just rather,
No, I think that's, but
you
I
know,
think, I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, that should, what I tell these kids I mentor, just that, because when you choose a school, you choose it for 40, 50 years, not 3 to 5 years, as they say when they commit, because most kids go back where they played ball at some point in time and live there. You create value, not just for now, but down the road. But
right,
there's so much that goes into all this stuff, teaching them money management, teaching them, you got to have tax structure and all these things that I see issues coming down the road because, when I got money, I broke. I never had no money. I mean, nobody can teach me. My mom and dad, I mean, they had no money. my
right,
dad, my dad had to go to the church and borrow money from the building fund sometimes to pay the light bill. I get back to you when the next check. That's just how so they ain't teaching you about 401ks and retirements and nobody was there. So a lot of these guys don't come from that same kind of situation. So something needs to be in structure there. Financial literacy, mentoring, all of these different things. I mean, then you're going to get the hanger oners when you got money. Guess what comes with the money is hanger oners and things like that too. So there's a lot that needs to be done. You got to offer, as the total package for these young men and women that are getting money that don't understand it. So there's so much more, that we talk about with this stuff. But again, it's happening. It's here. Who knows how long it's going to be here? But as for now, this is what we have to deal with, and so we have to try to do the best we can with it. And again, a lot of these players deserve it. I think they deserve the money. And let me just say this before we get out of here too. Most players are not getting that kind of money. That's going to be a small fraction that might say, hey, I need this, that, and the third. Most guys, if we really look at it, most NIL deals are very, very. I think I saw something about an average. It wasn't a whole lot of money.
they're just getting what the collective provides, which is like the $25,000,
Yeah,
$30,000.
right,
Which
like
again,
8,000.
for a college athlete, a student athlete in college, that's a good bit of money because you have free meals, free apparel to wear around campus. You don't really need to buy clothes. Your housing can be free, or it definitely can be very affordable depending on where you choose to live. So, $30,000 on top of those benefits already is not a
Oh
bad
no,
gig. Again, it's way
see,
more than what I had, the people before me had. So that's, we say that like it's like, oh, it's only 25 or $30,000, but it's
mm-hmm.
something, right? For a college student, that's not bad.
No, I mean, no, they could definitely do live and a lot better. So, I mean, listen, I'm sitting there going like, shoot, but you pay. Think about back in the 80s, there wasn't nothing, man. This is nothing. So, and the thing is, you couldn't work, you couldn't earn nothing. I mean, it was hard. So the
Mm.
players need. Let me just clarify: the players need to be paid something, and
Yeah, no,
so
and that's why I said
yeah,
like that
yeah.
that base, pay is great, because that's as if they're working a job that they're not allowed to work with the hours that they're required to be in meetings and workouts and practices. So I'm all cool with that. And anything additional that they earn from their name, image, and likeness, that's not included in what we're
Especially,
saying with the 25 or 30. So that's what I'm saying. They really could make another, if even if it's lower a guy lower on the depth chart or whatnot, he might be able to squeeze another 5,000 or so. And a guy that's a starter could probably squeeze another anywhere from ten to $40,000 per year. So that's what I'm saying. To me, like that should be fine, right? That's a great starting point. And depending on, again, what you do on and off the field, you can earn much more than that. I
That's
think
why
now
I thought
they're coming out with the whole, asking
they
fans
should.
to pay. I just feel for the fans because I'm thinking like, all right, there's so many fans that can hardly even afford to attend a football game, probably haven't even really had a chance to go to Bryant Denny and watch a game. And now you have it where it's like, hey, we're creating this program where, please, give more money. It's just like, I feel like everything is just turned into a money grab. Not just this, but even in anything. Like, you got a Netflix subscription and they raise the price on that. You got an Apple Music subscription. And, it used to be $3, now it's $5, and then it's $8. Just I hate the fact that everything always keeps raising. I know that's kind of how financial stuff works with inflation and whatnot, but I just again I hate it for the
I
fans.
used
Again,
to
I'm all
buy
for
something for
players,
a
but
quarter. I used
right.
to
No,
buy
and I get
something
it.
100 bomb for 50 cents.
Right. No, I get it, but I don't think there's ever been a time in history that fans were asked to pay the players, right? You know what I'm saying? Like that's usually what the club's responsibility is to pay their players. That's why it's just kind of weird to me that but I guess you got, like you said, you got to do what you got to do. It's the times that we're living in, and it's the landscape of college athletics right now. So you either got to adapt or you get lost. So
You're gonna be left behind, and that's just the way it is. That's why I always voted for give them all 35, 50 grand, all the money that they're making from TV deals. Keep it, and
right.
then allow them to go out and get deals on them
Yeah,
on their
TV
own.
deals,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
you're authorizing them to use your name and stuff when they make apparel or do videos or use you on any type of promotion, stuff like that. That's why, to me, I think that should be a standard. But the whole using it for recruiting and stuff and asking people to give more and more out, they're starting to lose me with all that, man. I was all for it, name, image, and likeness opportunities, but to this extent, that's like there's going to be some legislation coming. I guarantee you that.
no doubt. Been a great show. Enjoyed hanging out here with you. We're gonna do this thing every Monday, so lock it in. Lock it in on your dial. It's called the Miller's Edge. You're probably like, where y'all get that from? Well, my last name is Miller. We're both carrying that name. Passed down from old Miller, Pappy, Sheriff Miller, my daddy. Pass it down to my son. Keep on going till Jesus comes back. Why we call it Edge? Well, we both played the Edge. Edge rusher, outside linebacker. Now they call it the Edge guy. I still call it outside linebacker, same old thing. So you get our perspective from the Edge because we're blitzing off the corner every Monday night right here. You can see it right there, youtube.com/@the-Miller's-Edge. Hit us up on Twitter if you want. Everything is right there on the screen. So we'll be, Christian will be breaking some of this stuff down and tweeting it different little segments. So you can go back and listen to what we had to say. Like us, subscribe, comment, whatever you got. We have to ask you questions on that old social media thing. Don't get up out of here. Christian Miller down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I'm your boy, the Pastor Babe in Columbia. Be blessed. Have a great night. We'll holler at you next week.